It feels endless, a storm that refuses to fade, as Hollywood is consumed by scandal, betrayal, and whispers of destruction, dragging Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni, Rebel Wilson, Melissa, Nathan, Camille Vasquez, and countless other names so powerful the entire industry seems to choke under the weight of secrets erupting into the open. Every rumor, every accusation collides into an explosive spectacle where truth itself has sharpened into a weapon waiting for detonation, leaving the chilling question, when the reckoning arrives, who survives and who is shattered? What began as chatter over a simple book adaptation has mutated into a wildfire swallowing everything in its path, sparked when Blake Lively miscalculated her ability to manipulate the narrative, bending the image to her will. She never imagined her closest allies, the very architects of her carefully curated empire, could transform into liabilities, nor that the machinery polishing her fairy tale would crumble so publicly before millions. Now chaos seeps through like poison threads, binding her fate to Justin Baldoni, a visionary turned scandal's lightning rod, to Candace Owens, whose relentless voice slices through Hollywood facades, to Taylor Swift, the once best friend now a silent absence louder than screams, and to Isabella Ferrer, a rising star dragged beneath dangerous undertows. Rebel Wilson, once ready for triumph with her directorial debut, instead finds herself suffocating in lawsuits and countersuits, her name pulled deeper into the mire. Melissa Nathan, the so-called crisis manager, appears to conjure fresh chaos rather than solutions, tethering herself to battles spiraling out of control. Together, these figures illustrate a Hollywood unraveling, a stage where illusions collapse, reputations burn, and the balance of power reshapes itself with brutal precision, ensuring no one escapes untouched. Through the storm emerges the relentless digital roar, amplified by reporters, gossip columnists, faceless trolls, and shadowy anonymous sites that flicker into existence only to vanish like smoke, leaving reputations devastated almost as quickly as they appear. Beneath this chaos lies the brutal truth. The scandal has grown into a monstrous force of its own. It is no longer Blake against the world, no longer merely an effort to preserve her name. It has morphed into a sprawling labyrinth of lawsuits, subpoenas, smear campaigns, rogue crisis managers, and the chilling realization that no one, not even the richest, the most powerful, or the most connected, is untouchable once the machine turns its gaze against them. At the center of this hurricane echoes a single word, repeated again and again: reckoning. But what kind of reckoning looms? Is it legal, with Discovery dragging private texts into merciless public view? Is it cultural, with audiences rejecting the carefully manufactured personas of their icons? Or is it personal, where allies, lovers, and colleagues suddenly transform into enemies, witnesses, and adversaries? The devastating truth is that all three collide at once. Blake Lively, once untouchable, now clings to desperate legal maneuvers spanning multiple states, arguing even gossip bloggers hold the evidence that might determine her fate. Her once flawless shield has thinned to paper, and the woman who once glided past paparazzi cloaked in couture and confidence now hides behind lawyers scrambling to keep the walls from collapsing. Yet every filing, every argument, every subpoena only seems to summon more chaos, pulling more names into the mud, turning silent observers into unwilling adversaries. Rebel Wilson, once cherished for her humor, is now framed as a manipulator, a false feminist exploiting her platform to destroy rivals. Melissa Nathan, once the fixer, is now accused of orchestrating shadow campaigns, racially charged smears, grotesque rumors engineered to annihilate reputations beyond repair. Even Jed Wallace, long viewed as an untouchable legal mind, finds himself entangled in accusations of collusion, manipulation, and coordination, another domino crashing in a chain reaction. What makes this saga so hypnotic, so impossible to ignore, is not just the spectacle of collapse, but the dawning recognition that no one, no matter their power, escapes once the reckoning begins. Every downfall in Hollywood carries an echo, each collapse reverberating with memories of scandals past, smear sites, anonymous accounts, trafficking whispers, money laundering, women manipulated for power, all with the same rancid stench, but magnified in the digital age where nothing truly vanishes. Screenshots, texts, deleted posts resurface like ghosts, either in courtrooms or worse, in the unforgiving court of public opinion. And the deeper the spiral goes, the clearer it becomes. This is not about one film, not about one actress, not even about one director. It is about Hollywood's machinery itself, the rot woven deep within a system where narratives are wielded as weapons, silence is purchased, and careers rise or fall not by art but by who controls the story. For once, though, the story has escaped control, mutating into a runaway train, and Blake Lively is strapped to the tracks while Candace Owens hurls gasoline onto the flames. Rebel Wilson thrashes in legal chaos. Camille Vasquez emerges with the razor-sharp precision that crushed Amber Heard, and Justin Baldoni teeters between savior and scapegoat. Even Taylor Swift's ghostly silence lingers, a betrayal louder than words, a reminder that absence can wound more deeply than action. Each time it seems the smoke might clear, it thickens. Every time the worst revelation feels exposed, a new leak, a new filing, or a new name drags the saga deeper into carnage. The undeniable truth is the saga isn't ending. It is multiplying, metastasizing like a contagion that infects not only the stars and witnesses, but even the fans who once believed they could remain mere observers. The reckoning is inevitable, and when it arrives, Hollywood will find no safe corners, no fairy tales left intact. The flames spread wider, the battlefield grows bloodier, and what makes this scandal unlike any that came before is the sheer volume of players ensnared in its spiral. What began as Blake versus Baldoni, actress against director, has mutated into Rebel Wilson locked in defamation wars, Melissa Nathan exposed as the puppeteer behind shadow campaigns, Brian Friedman balancing razor-thin loyalties as clients sue one another, Camille Vasquez slicing through the chaos with courtroom ferocity, and Jed Wallace himself now tainted by whispers of collusion behind defamatory sites. Taylor Swift lingers silently on the edges of this saga, her absence a ghostly reminder of broken alliances and fractured friendships that could resurface at any moment. And what chills the spine most is that this is no longer whispers of gossip, but documented reality. Lawsuits, filings, discovery documents, screenshots, texts, and websites dragged piece by piece into the light, each revelation more disturbing than the last. Anonymous platforms liken female producers to madams for oligarchs, grotesque lies circulate under the guise of secrecy, and damning text messages emerge from a crisis manager joking about creating a site so vicious it could crush a woman into silence. Rebel Wilson, once a voice claiming to champion women, now stands accused of weaponizing her platform to destroy them in business feuds, while Blake Lively, once the golden embodiment of Hollywood's fairy tale, appears desperate, grasping even at gossip bloggers to anchor her defense, as though the entire ecosystem must bear her collapsing weight. Yet that ecosystem itself is failing, because Hollywood has always thrived on silence, on fear, on an unspoken pact that everyone plays the game and no one gets caught. But now the curtain has been ripped wide open, exposing the machine that lurked beneath glossy magazine covers and glittering red carpets. What the world sees is terrifying. Smear campaigns orchestrated by seasoned professionals, anonymous trolls manufactured to appear organic, websites constructed with surgical precision to destroy reputations in the ugliest possible ways. Connect the dots and the truth becomes unmistakable. This is not merely about Rebel, or Blake, or Baldoni, or any single name. It is about the industry itself, an industry where silence is currency, truth is liability, and power is measured not in art or talent but in the ability to control the narrative, and when the narrative slips, you are prey. No one is clean. Rebel accused of defamation, Blake accused of manipulation, Baldoni accused of employing shadow fixers, Melissa Nathan accused of orchestrating grotesque smear tactics, Brian Friedman accused of representing too many conflicting sides, Camille Vasquez accused of chasing spectacle, Taylor Swift accused by her silence, and Candace Owens accused of turning pain into profit clicks, each accusation binding them further into the scandal's spiral. Yet the public cannot look away, because this feels less like scandal and more like reckoning, a cultural reckoning announcing that Hollywood will never be viewed the same way again. And then comes James Buska declaring with chilling confidence that he holds the receipts, the records, the timelines, daring the industry to dismiss him. Suspense thickens. What if he truly does? What if his stacks are real and names, emails, and communications spill into the public eye, tracing every smear, every whisper of trafficking, every vein of financial corruption back to its originators? What happens then, when the illusion not only cracks but shatters in the face of undeniable receipts? Because this is no longer merely about lawsuits. This is about trust, about power, about whether Hollywood itself can survive the exposure of its ugliest truths in real time. The darkest irony is that those who engineered these campaigns, the fixers, the strategists, the crisis managers, believed they were preserving empires, securing dominance, safeguarding careers, but instead, their machinations dragged those very careers into the abyss. For monsters dragged into light cannot be shoved back into shadows, smears once recorded in filings cannot be undone, and proof read by millions cannot be erased. And so Blake Lively stands exposed, Rebel Wilson stands accused, Justin Baldoni stands entangled, and Hollywood itself stands on trial beneath the burning weight of its own reckoning. Melissa Nathan stands implicated, Camille Vasquez stands sharpened, Brian Friedman stands conflicted, Taylor Swift stands silent, Candace Owens stands relentless, and the audience stands riveted, unable to look away because the spectacle has surpassed any film, book, or adaptation, and the question hanging over it all is simple yet chilling. How much deeper does it go? How many more names will fall? How many more masks will shatter before the reckoning finally arrives? The collapse feels inevitable because when one mask cracks, all masks shatter. When one lie unravels, every other lie begins to rot, dragging everyone into the arena screaming, unable to escape, for Hollywood has always relied on a delicate balance of image and silence. But silence is broken, image is bleeding, and the battlefield only grows larger. Rebel Wilson proclaims herself a feminist fighting corruption, yet her own texts revealed in filings paint her as racist, grotesque, and manipulative. Blake Lively swears she embodies grace, yet every move she makes in court screams desperation, a frantic attempt to bury inconvenient truths. Justin Baldoni claims victimhood, yet behind him swarms a legion of fixers, strategists, lawyers, and crisis managers pulling strings in calculated shadows. The public stares, unable to reconcile the fairy tales they were sold with the monsters emerging from the wreckage. How do you process the smiling woman who held hands with Taylor Swift on red carpets being the same woman pleading for gag orders to silence critics? How do you reconcile the quirky comic actress who joked about her weight being accused of commissioning websites comparing a woman of color to a trafficker? How do you comprehend the man whose image is built on sensitivity and vulnerability, yet is surrounded by operators accused of orchestrating whisper campaigns, smear machines, and scorched earth tactics? The answer is you cannot. You only watch, gape, and hunger for the next revelation, because the spectacle is too vast to ignore. And with spectacle comes blood. Every deposition, filing, and leaked receipt is not just a document, but a weapon, a bullet fired across a battlefield with no survivors, only casualties, reputations reduced to ash. In the center of this inferno stand the lawyers. Brian Friedman is no longer merely an attorney. He is executioner and savior, accused of threatening to sue Blake Lively into dust, orchestrating Rebel Wilson's defense, and knowing too much about smear campaigns to ever emerge unscathed, yet still walking into every room untouchable. Opposite him, Camille Vasquez enters, sharp and relentless, branded by her Amber Heard trial triumph, carrying the weight of victory and an insatiable hunger to carve another name into her growing list of conquests. When she steps into the Rebel Wilson case, stakes double, because she is not just a lawyer, she is spectacle incarnate, media attention embodied, and her very presence transforms the trial into theater, elevating every motion, every argument, every glance into an act of strategic power, and the world watches, breathless, as Hollywood's machinery of illusion begins to splinter under the weight of its own revelations. Camille Vasquez's presence guarantees that the trial will transcend a legal dispute, transforming into a public execution of reputations broadcast live across TikTok, YouTube, and tabloids, because she knows how to perform, how to slice words into daggers, how to turn a courtroom into a stage, and Hollywood has handed her the juiciest script of all. Somewhere in the silence sits Taylor Swift, once Blake's best friend, now distant and quiet, a ghostly reminder of fractured alliances, a woman trained through years of feuds, lawsuits, and narrative control to remain silent when silence matters most. Yet the silence itself tells a story. If Taylor speaks, she shifts the battlefield, tilts the war, or testifies, turning the entire saga into a spectacle the size of an earthquake, leaving the public whispering, will she or won't she? For in Hollywood, silence is never neutrality. Silence is strategy, and Taylor Swift's silence resonates louder than any declaration. Beyond the marquee names lurk the shadows, the agents who abandon Baldoni yet cling to Blake, the digital samurais crafting invisible campaigns until exposure in filings, reporters like James Vuska claiming to hold receipts that could burn it all down, producers such as Amanda Ghost smeared until her name became synonymous with crimes she never committed. Actresses like Charlotte McInnes trapped between accusations of lying or sabotaging her own projects while caught in battles far larger than herself. Every one of them may hold a thread, and every thread could unravel the entire tapestry. The reckoning feels closer with each passing day, for discovery does not pause, cross-complaints do not vanish, judges do not bow to celebrity, and the filings grow thicker, heavier, darker. Each page a coffin nail for someone's career. The longer it drags on, the more names emerge, more receipts surface, making it increasingly impossible to bury anything. Denied gag orders mean truth leaks. Denied gag orders mean speculation explodes. Denied gag orders mean Blake Lively can no longer hide behind publicists or stylists, forced instead to confront lawyers, evidence, and deposition chairs where mascara cannot conceal a trembling hand. What is she so afraid of? Why fight so hard to keep her words unsaid unless those words are poison, unless they are confession, and the internet devours every fragment? Fans divide, team loyalties fracture. The weight grows too heavy, the lies too thick, the stage too crowded. Hollywood cannot carry this scandal forever. The cracks are widening, the fractures deepening, and attempts to mask them with magazine spreads and photo ops fail to conceal the collapsing house. Blake Lively can smile for the cameras, hold hands with Ryan, pretend the fairy tale remains intact, but filings, judges' words, and whispers tell a different story. Every deposition swings another hammer, every leaked email shatters another pane of glass. The audience, once clinging to illusions of perfection, now gorges on destruction. Because downfall is more addictive than fantasy, ruin more profitable than romance. Rebel Wilson's collapse, tangled in racism and contradictions, feeds the beast, magnifying Blake's downfall, sharpening Baldoni's rise, and illuminating Camille Vasquez's stage. The public cannot turn away, because this is no longer mere entertainment, it is blood sport. Names are not people, they are pawns, moved across a board where the only rules are survival or annihilation. Brian Friedman continues to play with precision and ruthlessness. Camille Vasquez wields cross-examinations like daggers. Justin Baldoni presents himself as the tragic, too honest, too vulnerable figure, and Blake Lively claws at the edges of her crumbling facade. But pawns are not safe. Pawns are sacrificed. And when the system deems you the piece to destroy, there is no escape, no reprieve, and no fairy tale strong enough to survive the ruthless, relentless machinery of Hollywood exposed in its darkest, most unfiltered light. No matter your beauty, your history, or your millions, Hollywood worships the new and crucifies the fading, and right now, Blake Lively is fading. Her name is no longer safe, her image no longer untouchable. Her silence, once golden, has become damning. A weapon, an echo that convinces the world she is something far worse to hide. More chilling than the scandals, the smears, or the lies is the underlying truth. If Blake Lively can fall, anyone can fall. If Rebel Wilson can be torn apart, anyone can be destroyed. If Taylor Swift can watch in silence, perhaps her silence is not protection but premonition, because the machinery of Hollywood does not care for loyalty, friendship, or morality. It only cares about survival, and when survival demands blood, sacrifice is inevitable. Today, that sacrifice is Blake Lively. Tomorrow, it could be anyone. Hollywood trembles because this saga is far from over. It is only the opening act of a reckoning that will leave no illusion intact. The curtain may fall, but the noise does not fade, because every story told in this saga spawns 3 more. Every revelation provokes darker questions. Every silence screams louder, leaving not clarity but chaos. A chaos the public feeds upon, a chaos that Hollywood has built its empire around. The names shift, the faces rotate, but the pattern endures. One is lifted, one is broken, one adored, one destroyed, and the audience never stops watching, never stops consuming, because downfall is the truest currency in this industry. Blake Lively stands at the storm's edge, caught between defending the flawless facade she built and protecting herself from the wreckage it unleashed. Justin Baldoni casts himself as both victim and visionary rebel. Rebel Wilson struggles through her own lawsuits, dragging others into the fray. Brian Friedman maneuvers with the precision of a chess master. Camille Vasquez sharpens her blades for another public triumph, and Melissa Nathan becomes the shadow figure whose name lingers, untouchable, because discovery has already cracked the walls, and cracks cannot be repaired. The audience has seen the cycle enough to know its rhythm, yet they remain, commenting, sharing, consuming, because watching the fall is no longer shocking. It has become ritual, the ritual of fame built on scandal, sacrifice, and destruction. The names are secondary. The cycle itself is the true story, spinning faster, louder, hungrier, and one truth remains above all else. It never ends, it never ends, it never ends.